Hi, this is Dr. McGlamory from NASA Behavioral Health and Operations. And today my colleagues and I are advocating for additional research for physiological psychology principles critical to space exploration. Space physiology in medicine is a young discipline that has made great strides in the first half century of human spaceflight. We have a good understanding of the medical problems associated with short duration spaceflight and have successfully developed countermeasures. The issue is, as spaceflight has grown and matured, you can say, the long duration spaceflights are a little bit of the unknown. Additional research is needed to ensure the safety and success of the astronauts and the missions they are attempting. In December, President Trump signed Space Policy Directive 1, a measure that calls on NASA to reinvigorate its space exploration efforts and work with international and commercial organizations to enable human expansion across the solar system. NASA officials said the agency could begin launching missions to the moon as early as next year. With missions like this being planned, we must take time and ask ourselves, what are the effects of long-duration spaceflight on crew performance and functioning, and what should be done to facilitate long-term spaceflight missions? The program looks to explore how low-gravity environments affect tissue growth and cellular functions. Physiologic acclimation to spaceflight is a complex process involving multiple systems, and additional research is needed to ensure success. Things like radiation exposure, bone demineralization, muscle atrophy, immune dysregulation, and are certain problems that can affect the mission and the astronaut's health drastically. Of all the problems that can be encountered en route to Mars and back, effects on the astronaut's mind may be the biggest risk factor of them all. As mentioned, a round trip to Mars would take 2 to 3 years. Anxiety, depression, and loneliness, along with the stress of routine tasks, tensions with the crew, and a daily battle to maintain fitness and avoiding accidents, is the ideal recipe for disturbed behavior in space. While we do have research on the psychology and attacks on the mind that may happen in space, we have, like I said before, we are in the unknown when it comes to long-term mission flights because they are drastically different. For example, unlike crews on the International Space Station, the crew en route to a planet like Mars cannot remain in direct contact with their loved ones and are not steadily supplied with replacement crews, food, or even gifts. Isolation and confinement pose the greatest challenge for the crew as they approach the red planet. Communications between the spacecraft and Earth become scarcer. For example, they would have to wait up to 21 minutes for a message to reach family members and another 21 minutes to receive a reply. A variety of other psychological and physical effects have also been observed from both operational and simulated isolated and confined environments. These factors include motivational decline, fatigue, insomnia, headaches, digestive problems, and social tensions. Strained crew relations, heightened friction, and social conflict are also expected from isolation and confinement. In conclusion, along with the information I've given you, me and my colleagues are advocating for additional research for the physiological and psychology principles that are critical in space exploration. As far as benefits to the pros and cons of this research, I believe the pros outweigh the cons dramatically.
so after looking into the project and seeing what the requirements were, I decided that the best thing to do when advocating for ongoing research would to give a real-life example of something that, while might not at first seem comparative to space travel and what astronauts would have to go through, can be compared to it by connection. So yes, as you can see, this is my cat, Stripes. She had a sister, Stars. Yes, like the American flag, Stars and Stripes. Anyway, Stars and Stripes would get along, and they'd be very, they were sisters. And being a part of a military family, we traveled a lot. That would mean Stars and Stripes would have to come with us. And we just can't fly everywhere, so we drove. So putting her and her sister, Stars, in the car with us, sometimes they'd be in the cage when they did it. Other times, they'd just be roaming about the car. That could be seen as the initial rocket launch, lifting off, going into space. Whereas being in a new home could be seen as the new environment, much like if you're in the space station, or if you're say going to cultivate Mars or live on the moon or something. But the main reason I'm bringing this up is because after about the first, probably about the third move, Stars started to get a little aggressive, and she'd actually ended up injuring Stripes twice. But she would actually, you probably won't be able to see it, but scratched right along the side of her. Ended up having to get stitches, didn't you? And that behavior, she was never hostile towards her. They were both very docile cats. And Stripes still is a very fat, well, not very fat, but a fat and docile kitty. Well, after a bit of doing that and moving around, Stars, became very, as I said, hostile. So, after having attacked Stripes for a while, we decided to have her go live with my grandmother out in Georgia. Which she stuck to, for 2 years. She lived out there, and she became a very predatory cat. Bring back birds from my grandmother, which she'd never done before. She barely even chased birds. And, yeah. So, with all of that building up and all the stress and being with the same, yes. So, Stars took to it very well, and then, of course, she passed away. We don't know how that was. We just didn't come back for about a week. But the point of this and why I'm comparing it to the space studies and advocating for ongoing research is, if something is, yes, trivial to a person, as moving, can have this much effect on a cat who, through studies, have been shown to not be as intelligent as humans or entirely behave like them. Probably the closest thing you could say to us is we're mammals, but if the cats behave like this and the humans, what's to say when a human goes through space travel and does it continuously? Would they react like Stars and become hostile towards people and not want to be in groups and want to be in a more solitary and, yes, predatory environment? Or would they be more like Stripes, sticking to their natural habits, staying relatively the same, if not more docile? And that's why I think there needs to be a lot of ongoing research. Because if two cats who've known each other their entire lives can have, from a starting point of very similar, what you'd call personalities, to then very drastic ones over the course of doing the same things throughout their lives, what's to say a human won't? So I feel it takes a lot of study and time, effort, and patience to figure out exactly how someone will react to the different changes of environment. And then back to the whole being in the car, like being in a space shuttle. They might not have had that much room to move around. It definitely not like they're used to. Especially because they used to move throughout the house, which could be seen as living throughout an Earth. Being in the crate to get to the car at first could be seen as, preparation, I guess, for the shuttle launch, and the shuttle launch being the car ride. Then there's all the various stops at the hotels or wherever they are. It just goes to show that over time, the way a creature thinks can be changed due to the environment and circumstances they're in. So I feel that we need to make sure we have a very good understanding of space travel and the side effects that could happen to it over long periods of time, if that's what we're planning to do.